The Republican Party's cruel, relentless, and wildly unpopular war against reproductive rights in this country has been most recently embodied in the tragedy of Kate Cox, a Texas woman who sought and won a court-ordered abortion for a non-viable, life-threatening pregnancy before the Texas Attorney General threatened to prosecute her husband and any physician who attempted to perform the procedure, and then the Supreme Court of Texas struck down the lower court's ruling, forcing Kate Cox to flee the state. As political commentators speculate about the role that she and others like her will play in this upcoming election, including Jessica Tarlov, the only sane voice on the Fox propaganda network, Texas's highest-profile political figure, Ted Cruz, demonstrated his typical cowardice on this specific issue, and it is a sight to behold. But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. All right, folks, we haven't talked about him in a minute, but there is Flying Ted Cruz, or Lying Ted, as Donald Trump once referred to him as. Ted Cruz is, he's allegedly the least likable person in Congress, which is saying something given how wildly unlikable a lot of these Republicans are. Like even Lindsey Graham actually said famously, he goes, if you were to murder Ted Cruz on the floor of the Senate, nobody in the Senate would find you guilty if they were the jury. That is how disliked this man is. I mean, he's legendarily unlikable. So with that in mind, a reporter asked Ted Cruz, since he is, the highest political figure in terms of profile coming out of Texas, about the situation with Kate Cox. And this is how he responded.
Senator, are you supportive of the Texas Supreme Court's ruling in the Kate Cox case that prevented her from getting an abortion after she learned her fetus was not viable?
Just call her press office.
I actually have for 2 days now, and I still haven't received an answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, just completely dismissive. Call my press office. Like this man is never shy about being in front of a camera. I mean, my God, he goes anywhere that there's a camera. Fox News, he's even been on Bill Maher's show, right? This is how media thirsty Ted Cruz is, and yet he's openly fleeing a legitimate question, which, by the way, is politically relevant because Republicans get their ass kicked, politically speaking, on the matter of abortion time and time again. So you would think, for various reasons, morality and politics, that Ted Cruz would want to address the issue. But he's like, no, call my press conference. I got to go. Thank you. And yet, just to give you a little snippet of how Ted Cruz manages to find the time to address things that actually matter to him, I want to play this clip of a recent appearance on Fox News.
Give me an example of the intersection that's right at the heart of the new book Unwoke. As you know, I do a podcast every week, 3 days a week. It's called...
So in 8 seconds, he's able to hawk his book, Unwoke, and then he's able to talk about his podcast, which, by the way, if you follow him on Twitter, he does it all the time. He references these things constantly. Clearly, being in the Senate is a part-time gig for him, and hopefully we'll be able to unburden him of that in 2024. He's up for re-election. He'll be running against a Democrat, presumably named Colin Allred. I believe he's the favorite in the Democratic primary. He's currently a Republican or Democratic congressman. So we should help Ted Cruz out. He clearly wants to be a book author about culture war nonsense, and he wants to be a podcast host full-time. Fair enough. Let's just get you out of the Senate, man, because you're clearly no good there. Utter cowardice. When it comes to that stuff, he can find the time in 7 seconds to address the issue. But when it comes time to address things like, Texas's Attorney General and their Supreme Court cruelly, just inflicting gross cruelty on one of his own citizens, a person he's supposed to be representing, Kate Cox, nowhere to be found on it. Utter lack of leadership, utter cowardice. So I want to play a couple of clips here that address the issue of, again, Kate Cox and abortion as we head into this election year. This one is from Jen Psaki's show on MSNBC, and then we're going to play a clip from Fox News The Five, and Jessica Tarlov weighs in.
I think it's important to emphasize that the so-called Republican compromises on abortion, the cutoffs that have been floated out there, they would not have helped Kate Cox.
They wouldn't have helped Kate Cox. They won't help most people around the country who find themselves in need of care, and people see right through it. That's why you have that poll. They don't trust Republicans to make this decision.
Nor should they. You shouldn't trust Republicans with anything. They have proven time and time again that they are wildly incapable of defending the trust that you give them. I'll also point out that I think it's 21 states in the United States in the aftermath of the Dobbs decision, which overturned Roe v. Wade, have restricted abortion in many, if not most, situations. So the New York Times constantly keeps track of it. 21 states ban abortion or restricted procedure earlier in pregnancy than the standard set by Roe v. Wade. Okay, so 21 states, almost half the states in the United States. And we've talked about before, there are many Republican Republican officials, period. Mike Johnson, Donald Trump even, Clarence Thomas in the Supreme Court, where they have expressed interest in federal legislation and federal judicial rulings in the case of Clarence Thomas on the matter of abortion. And given, again, that you can't trust the Republicans on this issue, that should factor into everyone's decision as they head into the ballot box. Jessica Tarlov weighs in on this as well and gives her opinion on the state of play for 2024 and uses Kate Cox as kind of an example.
What will be the topic, the issue? Kamala Harris wants to talk more about Palestinians. I mean, my suspicion is 2024 for the Democrats will be the year of abortion. That will be the topic of choice for an entire year.
Well, since the Dobbs decision was overturned, abortion hasn't just been the topic of choice for Democrats, it's been the topic of choice for all Americans. Republicans are a part of the pro-life movement, celebrated as a victory, and Greg always points this out, it's a morality question for them, right? This isn't a negotiable about, no, actually we'll go to 15 weeks or it should be 20 weeks. It's life begins at conception. And so a lot of these states who have incredibly intrusive and, overextensive restrictions on abortion, they're standing by their beliefs there. So yes, this election will be about abortion. There will be more referendums on it, and Democrats will continue to win those, as they've been doing in deep, deep red states. But Kellyanne says, we wake up, it's January 6th, then we go.
I just want to point out, Jeanine Pirro is not in this episode. She is being substituted by somebody arguably even worse, which is Kellyanne Conway, the inventor of alternative facts, former Trump spokesperson.
Go and get an abortion.
In your electric vehicle.
Sure, in my EV. So January 6th happened once for me. I haven't gone to get an abortion. I don't have an electric vehicle. But you continue to hear about cases like Kate Cox from Texas, where you live, right? A woman, a mother of two, pregnant with a wanted pregnancy, her third pregnancy, gets a diagnosis of trisomy 18. Her doctors say she needs an abortion. Lower court grants it. Then the Supreme Court of Texas overrules it, restricting her. This is about health of the mother and preserving her fertility. This is what the pro-life movement wants, right? People who want children and should be able to have them. She has to leave the state in order to have that care. She has the...
Right. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Kate Cox, I mean, obviously it's entirely up to her. She may want to make sure that this profoundly intimate tragedy she's experienced, she may want to keep it to herself as much as she possibly can, although has already generated national headlines. I wouldn't be surprised if she, takes the opportunity to say, listen, this is what was inflicted on me by cruel authoritarians in the Republican Party. This is a threat to all women in all 50 states, right, regardless of what Republicans say. I'm mindful of, in the 2023 off-year elections, and this was at the state level, it was the gubernatorial race in Kentucky, there was a young lady who featured in, and this got national headlines, a campaign advertisement for the incumbent Democratic governor, my former governor, Andy Beshear. By the way, is amazing. He won that election, thank God. And it was devastating against his Republican opponent. It was about how she was raped and was impregnated by her rapist, and it's a devastating advertisement. She points out that the Republican challenger wants to create laws that would have forced her to carry her rapist fetus to term against her will. And a lot of political experts believe that that helped swing the election even further in Andy Beshear's direction. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kate Cox becomes a recurring face within the 2024 election, not just at the presidential level, but really just at every point. Because again, Donald Trump at the presidential level, he's running against Joe Biden. He has expressed very draconian views. He's hinted and flirted with openly about federal abortion bans. He's talked about punishing women who seek abortions. Mike Johnson, who is the most powerful and highest elected Republican in the federal government as the Speaker of the House. He has also flirted with very strict abortion laws. He's expressed no interest whatsoever in keeping it to the states. Lindsey Graham in the Senate has said that there needs to be a federal abortion ban. So we're seeing it everywhere. And again, even if you're so inclined to say, listen, would they really do that, as unpopular as it is? Maybe we should trust Republicans. You shouldn't. Republicans have demonstrated time and time again that they're pathological liars and that they'll say something on Monday if it's convenient and then change it by Wednesday to appeal to their base. We have no reason to trust them with an inch, politically speaking, especially on this issue. And Kate Cox is proof of it. So let me know what you think in the comments.